Welcome everybody to the December 12th Budget Committee meeting. Before I go any farther, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? I don't have any regrets from the committee members. Very good. And for members of the public, any member of the public wishing to speak further regarding an issue on the 2014 Budget Committee agenda today may appear before Council at its meeting on December 16th, 2013 at 7 p.m. when the recommendations from this meeting will go forward for final consideration. If you wish to speak as a delegation, please sign the sheet located at the back of the room or notify the Clerk's Department no later than noon the day of the Council meeting. Any PowerPoint presentations must also be forwarded to the Clerk's Department no later than noon the day of the meeting. Members of committee, there are 3 items on the agenda. The first is tourism, the second is the Heritage Grant Program through your pilot report, and the third is the 2014 budget deliberations. Before I go any further, are there any members of the public here today who wish to speak regarding any of the 3 reports before us? Going once, going twice, then I will restrict it to table. Members of committee, the 2 reports that are before you regarding tourism and the Heritage Grant Program through your pilot, are there any questions on that? Or members of council who are here? Okay, could I have a motion to receive those 2, please? Thank you very much, Councillor. That's Councillor Lapworth who's moving that. All those in favor? Those 2 items have been received. Regarding the 2014 budget deliberations, Ms. Sully, do you wish to give us an update regarding the region's numbers, please?
Sorry. Through you, Mr. Chair, since the last Budget Committee meeting, we have 2 updates. First, our final assessment growth number has come in, and it is 1.57%. We had estimated 0.75 in the budget documents based on information from MPAC at that time. As well, now the region of Halton has approved their budget, and their total increase, including police, is 0%. So that brings the town's increase to 2.11%, including our capital levies, and the overall increase to 0.83%.
Okay, and are there any other comments that you need to make?
No, I think that's
okay. Members of committee, I've put before you a revised Appendix A, and if we could bring that up on the screen for consideration. That's the Word document that you've got there. Whoops, it's down on the bottom. I think it's already open. There we go. And for members of the committee, number 6, we've made an amendment to that subsequent to getting onto your desks. The new wording is in front of you on the screen, and that is that the 2015-2016 budgets and forecasts be prepared with overall tax increases in line with inflation for the consideration of the next council, and that will give our staff direction as they move forward in the preparation of the materials for next year. And so I have that before you for your consideration as a starting point. Would any member of the committee be willing to move that to get it onto the floor? Thank you very much, Councillor Johnston. Councillor Johnston, do you wish to speak to any component of it? I have included within it the change under item 2 to the capital budget dealing with the basketball court.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm happy to move this budget. I think it's good news for all the residents, and I'd just like to thank Andre Adam for making his presentation earlier in our deliberations. It's a great idea, and I'm happy to see that we've found the money to meet his request. So thank you.
Okay, any other members of committee? Councillor Lapworth.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank my fellow committee members for the budget process for 2014, and in particular to Nancy Scully and her staff for putting the numbers together. I've been working on budgets for the last 50-odd years, and I'll tell you, the town budget, both the operating and the capital, is an amazing product of common sense and good working together and financial management. And this, in turn, will lead us to be the most livable town in Canada. Thank you.
Any others? Councillor Elgar.
I'd also like to echo the comments and thank staff for what the effort they've put into keeping the increases to an absolute minimum. And I think no one wants to pay taxes nowadays, but what I'm happy to see is we're not reducing any services at all. In fact, we are actually improving a service, and it's in the case of snow plowing, where we have we've raised the bar. Instead of being a 10 centimeter fall, it's now a 7.5 centimeter snowfall, and then the plows will be out. So I'm very pleased to see that, and I think the residents will be very pleased to see that also. So thanks again, everyone, for what you've done. And an under 1% increase is pretty good when you consider looking at our neighbors, both Mississauga and Brampton, who for years never seem to have increases. And for some reason, now they've found that their war chest of money is not only gone, but they're in a deficit position, and they're increasing their deficit this year as well as last year. And there's major concern in Mississauga because they realize they weren't planning for the future. But I think also the staff need a lot of credit for what they've done over the last, say, 10 to 15 years, in that they have been being very responsible by adding money to reserves to, in fact, keep our facilities in good shape. Because I can remember back in 2000 where the roads themselves were getting worse every year, and nothing seemed to be getting better. And now it's a long, I remember the presentation, and it was by the Finance Committee, showing how we were actually gapping our gap. Instead of things getting better, things were getting worse on the roads. And the town staff and the council decided it's time we anteed up and add 1% a year to make sure that we keep up with our infrastructure. So thank you, everyone.
Any others? Okay. I'm going to read it out and just make sure that it's available for anybody who's trying to hear what we're doing. And that is that the 2014 recommended operating budget as presented in the 2014 operating budget and the 2015 to 2016 forecast budget document be approved, subject to the following adjustments. A, introduction of a youth after-school program at $17,200 to be funded through the Tax Stabilization Reserve. B, introduction of volunteer usher and bar service at the Oakville Centre at $25,100 to be funded through the Innovation Reserve. C, funding of the pilot building facade improvement grant program as part of the Kerr Village Community Improvement Program at $150,000 to be financed through funds acquired under Section 37 of the Planning Act. And D, funding of the pilot heritage grant program at $25,000 to be financed through the Tax Stabilization Reserve. 2, that the 2014 recommended capital budget as presented in the 2014 operating budget and the 2015-2016 forecast budget document be approved, subject to the following adjustments. A, reduction of $50,000 from Mississauga Street right-of-way shoreline project number 533-71302 to be reallocated to finance the inclusion of the Nautical Court basketball facility as new capital project in 2014. And on that note, I want to also thank Councillor Robinson for bringing this forward along with the residents. Number 3, that the 2014 net Town of Oakville levy request of $157,902,600 be approved, resulting in a 2.11% increase in the town share of the residential property tax bill, representing an approximate 0.83% overall residential tax rate increase, and that the Treasurer be authorized to confirm and adjust these amounts if required, prior to Council's approval of the budget on December 16, 2013. 4, that the snow plowing threshold for local residential roads and public laneways be changed to 7.5 centimeters from 10 centimeters, and the cost be absorbed through the Roads and Works departmental budget. 5, that transit be requested to work with the City of Burlington on a consolidated model for delivery of booking, scheduling, and dispatch functions to achieve compliance with accessibility legislation, AODA, with shared operating and capital costs associated with this and future service level increases, and that staff bring the proposed model to both councils for approval. 6, and this is the one that's changed, and to look on your screen for this one, that the 2015-2016 budgets and forecasts be prepared with overall tax increases in line with inflation for the consideration of the next council. And finally, 7, that the report dated December 3rd, 2013 from the Finance Department be received. So before we take a vote on this, I want to thank our staff for the work that they've done over the last few months. It's actually something that starts almost as soon as the last budget gets completed. We start on the next one, and certainly all through summer and throughout this fall period, we've been very active working with our staff and working with members of the public on a variety of projects and issues. And I thank both our staff and those people who have been part of our budgeting process for the time and energy they've taken to give us their feedback and allowed us to consider what they wanted and where they wanted us to go. It's not an easy process, as you all know, to balance the various desires and issues throughout the town, but I think we've done a very good job of doing it, and this increase that we're talking about is the lowest one that we've had in 15 years. And it doesn't just happen, it's done through a lot of hard work. And I also want to thank our regional colleagues, Mayor Burton especially, for his work at the police board. That's not an easy egg to have to carry. It's a very delicate issue over there. And so I appreciate that work that you've done as well. Because when we're looking at the overall tax increase, all of us are working at a bunch of different boards and a different bunch of places, and this is the final piece of it. So thank you very much, everybody. I do appreciate your ongoing support and energy. Now, are there any other speakers? Then I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That's carried. And members of committee, we've now completed our work. There are no confidential items on the agenda, and I am going to adjourn us, and we'll see you at council for the final approval by council on Monday.